Hi everyone, it's Chelsea from Smoldering Serpents. So today we're going to start a video series that I've wanted to since starting the channel, basically. And it's an introduction to each of our snakes individually. I'm going to break this up into 5 videos because it would be way too long otherwise. We're going to do boas and pythons today, and then we'll do king snakes and milk snakes. Then we'll do North American rat snakes, then Asian rat snakes, and then whatever's left over will be lumped together in a miscellaneous colubrid type snake group. So we're going to start that today. I'm going to give you a really quick update on the second reptile room that was featured in the last video. We've made some good progress there. You're going to see me wearing this, which looks a little strange. It's not for protection or anything. They're just thin cotton gloves and sleeves. They would do literally nothing if a snake bit me through them. It's actually because it's extremely humid in North Carolina, and I'm going to be running up and down the stairs and in and out of the house to get different snakes. So my skin is going to get a little bit damp, and the second my arm gets a little bit damp from the humidity of bringing snakes outside, they start to kind of stick to my arm, and it makes them moving more difficult. And they tend to get uncomfortable, and it's not a good feeling for me either. So these are just to help them move smoothly over my arms. I am gonna look ridiculous because I'm gonna wear a baseball cap, and I'm gonna attach my phone to the brim of the baseball cap so that I can use both hands to manage the snakes. Thankfully, you're not gonna see that, but that's basically how I plan on doing this video. So I'm going to take you over to the other room, give you a quick look at that, and then we'll jump right in with the introductions. Okay, quick update on the second reptile room. This is the progress we made. Since the last video, we've installed all of the shelves, we've foamed the edges and painted that, and we've waterproofed the bottoms of all the cages, and you can see we've put the topsoil substrate on the shelves and in the bottom of the cages. So at this point, we need to go out in the woods and get some more branches. We've started that in the bottom left cage there. We had some leftovers, but we need to go out and find some more because filling 7 cages takes a lot of branches. After we're done the branches, we can put on the side panels. There's still some more pieces that need to go on the sides of each of these cages. And then we'll build and install the doors. Put in the plants, put in cork bark, leaf litter, hide boxes, water bowls, the works. We're hoping to have snakes moved in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll move downstairs and start on the really, really big cage for our false water cobra. So the work never ends, but at least for this stack, we are nearing the finish line. And then the rest of this room is just going to stay as is pretty much for the foreseeable future. Like I said in the last video, there are plans for the rest of it, but other cages are taking priority. And yeah, this is where the dogs sleep. They like the cool floor. But eventually there'll be snake cages here. So yeah, that's where this room sits right now. Hopefully we'll have a finished update in a couple weeks, get some snakes in here, and I'm gonna go grab the first snake for this introduction video and we'll move on. So I intended on recording the audio along with the video at the same time, like usual, but when I got outside, the cicadas and the wind were so loud, and I was finding that I had to focus a lot more than I thought I would to keep the snake in the frame. So I ended up just recording the video, and I'm gonna add in the audio now afterwards. So with that being said, our first snake is Mahaka. She's our 4-year-old Demeral's boa. And these guys are from Madagascar, and honestly, I don't think there are many snakes that are prettier than them. Their pattern is just beautiful, and they have a lot of really subtle colors that don't come out well at all in video, but in person, a lot of them, including Mahaka, have this really beautiful peachy pink color that comes down the back of their neck. And it comes in as they age, and as they get older, it becomes brighter. She's from a local breeder, and she has been nothing but a joy to have around. Demerals are extremely slow growers. She's 4 years old now, and she's about 4.5 feet, maybe a bit more. We'd expect her to keep growing at her really slow but steady rate for probably another 2 to 3 years. She might top out at 5.5 feet or so. Demerals can range anywhere from 4 to 6 feet. They can get bigger. It's not common. And also I feel like their size gets exaggerated a lot. And they also get overfed a lot. They have an extremely slow metabolism. Mahaka here eats every 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, really, depending on the meal size. And they make full use of whatever food they get. So slow and steady with them. And it's really amazing to watch them slowly put on size with some age. She's extremely sweet, true to the species. They're usually very docile. She needs a hook when removing her from the cage because she is very reactive to movement initially, but once she's out, as you can see, she's extremely placid and just likes exploring. Next up, we have our 7-year-old boa imperator, Isis. She was named after an Egyptian goddess, just to clear that up. I'm a little tired of people thinking we named our snake after a terrorist organization. Anyways, so Isis is one of our oldest snakes that we have. You might notice that her face looks a little wonky still, especially on the tip of her nose. She went through a really persistent infection in her face. We're still not quite sure what happened there, but it raged for quite a while. We had to do some fairly intensive and invasive treatment, and she still needs to shed a few times to get rid of the scabs that are left over. So her nose is still a little bit bulbous, but she is actually doing really well. She's a complete sweetheart. She, again, is a snake who can be reactive to movement if you don't give her a heads up that you're going to pick her up. But other than that, once she's out, she is a complete sweetheart. She's about 7 feet long. We keep her fairly lean. You'll see a lot of boas with a really big, bulky, square shape, and we try to keep her on the lean side. Boas don't handle extra body fat very well. It affects their lifespan pretty easily. So Isis eats a rat or a chicken probably about every 6 weeks at this point, and we give her about 3 months during the winter where she doesn't eat anything. It's kind of a seasonal cycling that's catered more towards boas since they obviously don't go through a whole brumation, but it is a seasonal cycling that allows her to burn off any extra resources that she might have. Other than that, she's a really nice snake to have around. I always tell people if they would like a bit of a larger snake, heavy-bodied snake, you can't go wrong with a boa imperator. They're just really, really nice snakes, basically a large ball python. A little bit more arboreal, but very similar. Next up, we have our 3 Bredl's pythons. This is a species that comes from Central Australia, from a fairly harsh desert environment. And we'll start with our older female. This is Alia. She's 6 years old and just about 7 feet long. She's actually the biggest of our trio. Bredli are known for being extremely docile, and all 3 of ours are exactly that. They're very food motivated, so again, as I find with most boas and pythons, and honestly most snakes in general, is if they have a good appetite, they're going to pay extra close attention to any sudden movement at the front of their cage. But once you turn that initial food response off, they're extremely easygoing. You'll see Alia is a little bit squirmy. She's the most active of our 3 when she's out. She likes to move around, she likes to explore, she wants to climb up on my shoulders and on top of my head, which wouldn't make for a great video, but she's a lot of fun to have out. They all 3 are really. No worries about any kind of attitude, really. Once you turn that food response off, they are just big puppy dogs. But Alia we've had from a baby. We've had all 3 of them from a baby, and Alia is just a beautiful, beautiful snake. You can see that she has a very deep brick orangey red color, and you'll see the difference in color between them. Bredli tend to fire up, so to speak, in the sunshine. They tend to gain more color. They do this in response to a variety of things. They do it in response to being in the sunshine. They can do it in response to different temperatures, different times of the day, whether they're digesting or not. They really do change color quite a bit. So in the sunshine is when you're going to get the brightest color usually. And I'll show a video of our next one, Stilgar, in the shade, just to give you an idea of how different they can look. But yeah, so this is Alia. She's the biggest of the three, the older female, and she's a real sweetheart. I always love having her out. So this is Stilgar. He's our male. He's also 6 years old. He's probably right around the same length as Alia, but is significantly lighter. Males tend to be not as heavy-bodied as females. You can see he has a bit of a different head shape. He has a little bit more of a muscular-looking head shape and a slimmer nose. He is probably the most easygoing of the three. He tends to be fairly calm when handled, and he also is usually the last of the three to really respond strongly to any movement. So he's probably the most trustworthy of the three, and also just, I'm not sure what would ever upset him. He's just really laid back. So we keep our Brettles fairly slender. We feed them every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on food size. And so these guys, they eat either medium rat or an equivalently sized quail or chicken. And they also get cycled over winter, where we will fast them for about 3 months. We do casually attempt to pair them. We're not doing something quite right though with the cycling, and they're just not interested. So we'll keep trying every now and then, but for now we're also happy with them just as pets. These guys are really fun to have in oversized enclosures with lots of options because they're extremely confident. They're basically the 3 snakes that I can nearly guarantee will be out and visible all the time. They like to perch up on shelves. I don't find that they like to actually sit on branches too much, especially once they mature, but they really love a nice elevated hide or big flat shelf that they can rest on. So ours will be going in 7-foot cages, and we'll be trying to fit as many shelves as possible in there that will accommodate snakes of this size, but we're really excited to watch them get to explore and use a better setup than the temporary ones they're in right now. So you can see that the color difference is pretty apparent. Stilgar naturally has a more orange color compared to Alia's more reddish color, but in the shade you can see they can look quite brown, and they go through phases where they can look pretty dull. But overall, Stilgar and Alia look fairly similar, with just slightly different shades of orange and red. Our next one is Ganema, and she is our younger female. She's 5 years old, and she has this beautiful deep orange color, and it's gotten a little bit more reddish with time, but it's definitely a different look from our other two. And it's because she's from a totally different line. She's from the A4's line, and they are bred to get this beautiful rich color with age. And so she's 5 years old, she's just barely mature, and her color is really starting to deepen and saturate now. She doesn't always look like this in particular. She can look fairly pastel at random times, but on her good days, she looks really stunning. Ganema is actually going to a new home in a couple months. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was one that we had been considering off and on for quite a while, and we're really excited about the home that she's going to. She'll be very loved and well cared for. You can see her beautiful face shape, and from what I've seen, this looks like a trait from the A4's line as well. They have this really kind of big, beefy face shape, even as younger animals. And I've always admired her, and I know we'll get updates on her, and I'll continue to admire her. She's just a really pretty snake. She's the most intense out of our three as far as food goes. But again, once that food response is turned off, she's extremely docile. She's actually, I would say she's probably the least confident of our three, and that doesn't translate to her being defensive, but it does translate to her not being so quick to squirm around and want to climb on things. So it actually makes for much easier handling with her. She is smaller. She's probably about 6 feet, maybe a little bit over. But as you can see, she's much slower moving while I'm handling her, and that gave me a much easier time trying to get footage of her.
she just takes her time getting to know what's happening around her and looking at things, and she likes exploring like they all do, but she just doesn't quite come barreling up my arm at the same speed. So here she is in slightly different light, and you can see how much the color changes even just in turning a different direction. She already looks like a deeper color, and then here we have the same snake in shade. So you can still see that she's got really saturated color going on, but when the sun hits her, it brings it out a ton, and in the shade, she looks much more of an earthy brownish red. Last but not least, we have our ball python Pepper, and he's 2 years old, so he's the baby of the group. And don't ask me his morph, it's leopard something something. I do have it written down, but I'm just really not a ball python morph person. We decided just to get one that was calling my name, and that's how we ended up with Pepper. And he is a really sweet little boy. He actually has a little bit of an untrustworthy streak when it comes to sniffing and tasting fingers, but I don't actually mind because that translates into him being willing to try a fairly good variety of food. So he is, like I said, only 2 years old. He's still a baby. But basically, as soon as we got him, he went into a 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot cage. And we find him all over the place in there. He's likes to go from his buried hide to up on his shelves. And he really, really likes to explore the space. He's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to find. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo is Where's Pepper. His little face is always sticking out from somewhere waiting for a snack. And he's a lot of fun to have out and just let him poke around and explore things. He's also beautiful. You know, I can appreciate ball pythons of all colors and patterns, but I really, really love how he looks. And I'm very much looking forward to watching him grow up even more. So there's our group of boas and pythons. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm hoping to work out some kinks with how exactly to get these videos of them in the future for the next few videos, but I think it went okay. The next one we'll be doing is probably the milk snake and king snake video, so I hope to have that out in a week or two, and hopefully some caging updates along with that. So in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.